My neighbor knocked on my door at 5 p.m., trembling with fear. "Don't go to your daughter and son-in-law's for dinner tonight. Just trust me." His eyes betrayed a panic I had never seen in 30 years of neighborliness. "Why?" I blurted out. "You'll understand in an hour." I had expected family warmth, but instead I sensed betrayal. At 6:30 p.m., I understood everything and called the police. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I stood before the hallway mirror, adjusting my collar one final time. The house felt too quiet. It always did since retirement. 5 years teaching high school history had filled my days with voices, arguments, laughter. Now, silence pressed against the walls like something physical. Tonight should change that. Trevor's face flashed in my mind. The boy's last visit. That awkward goodbye Danielle orchestrated. 2 months of excuses after that. "He's busy with school, Dad. We've got plans this weekend. Maybe next month." But today she'd called herself. Insisted I come for dinner. "Trevor keeps asking about you, Dad." I pulled on my good cardigan. The navy one my wife had bought me 3 Christmases before the cancer took her. Dabbed cologne on my neck. Car keys jingled in my palm. 68 years old and still nervous about seeing my own grandson. Something felt wrong about that. The doorbell cut through my thoughts. I froze halfway down the stairs. Wrong timing. Danielle expected me in 20 minutes. My hand hesitated on the doorknob when I saw Larry through the peephole. My neighbor's face carried something I recognized from 38 years of reading students' expressions before they confessed to cheating or fighting or worse. Fear. I opened the door. Larry's first words weren't a greeting. "Don't go to your son-in-law's place tonight." No pleasantries, no explanation, just that flat statement delivered like a diagnosis. "My training as a teacher kicked in. When someone breaks social protocol this completely, listen." Larry's hands shook. His eyes darted toward the street, then back to me, then away again. "What's happening, Larry?" "I can't." He stopped himself, swallowed hard. "If I tell you directly, you might do something that makes it worse. Just stay home tonight, Vernon. Watch your front door. In about an hour, you'll understand everything." "An hour?" My mind raced through possibilities. "What's going to happen in an hour?" Larry backed away, already retreating down my porch steps. "If you see anything strange tonight, call the police first. Ask questions later. I mean it, Vernon." Then he was gone, moving across the street toward his own house with surprising speed for a 72-year-old man with bad knees. I watched him disappear inside, watched his living room light flick on, watched him take position at his own window, looking back toward my house. I stood in my living room, phone in hand, mind working the problem. Larry had lived across the street for 15 years. We'd shared beers on summer evenings, complained about property taxes, helped each other with yard work. He wasn't prone to dramatics or paranoia. If he was scared, something real was coming. My phone showed Danielle's last text. "Can't wait to see you, Dad. Trevor made your favorite, pot roast." I dialed her number. She answered on the first ring. "Hey, sweetheart, listen, I'm not feeling great. Might be that flu going around. Probably shouldn't come over tonight." The warmth drained from her voice instantly, replaced by something sharp. "Dad, you promised. Trevor's been cooking all afternoon. You can't disappoint him like this." I'd raised this woman, changed her diapers, taught her to ride a bike, walked her down the aisle. I knew her voice better than my own. This urgency felt rehearsed, too practiced. "Maybe I could come by tomorrow instead." "We have plans tomorrow." The response came too quick. "It has to be tonight. Just take some medicine and drive over. You can rest on the couch after dinner. Trevor will be devastated if you cancel." Using my grandson as leverage, something cold settled in my chest. "Let me see how I feel in a bit. I'll text you." "Dad." I hung up, stood there staring at the phone like it might explain itself. 38 years teaching teenagers had taught me when someone was lying. The pitch changes. Words come too fast or too slow. Danielle's voice had that quality just now. Forced urgency masking something else underneath. But why would my own daughter lie to get me out of my house? I moved to the front window, pulled the curtain back just enough to see the street, suburban quiet. Early evening settling in with that particular quality of spring light that makes everything look softer than it is. A few cars parked along the curb. Mrs. Chen walking her terrier. Normal. Then the dark van appeared. It wasn't speeding or driving erratically. Nothing obviously suspicious. Just rolling slowly down my street like any other vehicle. But I'd seen it before. 3 times this week, actually. Parked at different spots. Never staying long. Tuesday afternoon near the corner. Thursday morning 2 blocks down. Saturday evening right where it sat now. Coincidence? My pulse quickened. The van parked 2 houses down on my side of the street. Engine idling. Tinted windows revealing nothing. I counted seconds. 30, 45, 60, still running. My phone buzzed. Danielle. Dad, where are you? We're waiting. I looked at the van, looked at my phone, thought about Larry's terrified face, his cryptic warning, thought about Danielle's uncharacteristic pushiness, her insistence on tonight specifically. My thumbs moved across the screen. Leaving now, be there soon. The lie felt necessary, though I didn't yet understand why. I'd lied to my daughter exactly once before, when she was 17, and asked if I liked her boyfriend Marcus. I'd said yes. 3 months later, he stole $200 from her purse. She'd cried in my kitchen, asked why I didn't warn her. I'd told her some lessons can't be taught, only learned. Maybe I'd been wrong about that. The van's engine continued its low rumble. I stood at my window, watching, waiting. My reflection in the glass showed an old man in a good cardigan, cologne still fresh on his neck, car keys clutched in one hand, and phone in the other, ready for dinner with family, ready for pot roast and conversation and my grandson's smile, except I wasn't going anywhere. Whatever Larry had seen or heard or figured out, whatever reason Danielle needed me gone from this house tonight, it was sitting 2 houses down in a dark van with tinted windows and an idling engine. I wasn't leaving, not yet. The van's engine cut off. Silence stretched across the street. I counted my breaths, an old technique from parent-teacher conferences. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, keep steady. 1 minute passed. 2. The van doors opened. 3 men emerged. Dark clothing, not uniforms, but similar enough to seem coordinated. Baseball caps pulled low. One carried a duffel bag, heavy with something. Another held metallic objects that caught streetlight. Tools. My stomach dropped. These weren't delivery workers. They moved toward my house's side, disappearing from view. I crossed to the kitchen window. They were at my fence gate now, the one I locked every night. The man with tools reached the gate, produced something from his pocket. The gate swung open smoothly. He had a key. Someone who knew my property had given these men access. My phone vibrated. Danielle calling again. My finger hovered over decline, then stopped. If they thought I was coming to dinner, they'd believe the house was empty. I answered, forcing steadiness into my voice. Sorry, honey. I had to help Larry with something. I'm getting in the car right now. Relief flooded through the phone. Okay, good. We were getting worried. Drive safe, Dad. See you soon. The lie came easier this time. Be there in 20 minutes. She hung up. I immediately dialed 911. Voice low. 3 men are attempting to break into my home. I'm inside. They don't know I'm here. What's your address, sir? I gave it, watching flashlight beams move along my house's side. They were checking windows, testing the back door, methodical, professional. Officers are 2 minutes away, Mr. James. Stay on the line and keep away from windows. Are the suspects armed? I don't know. They have tools. One has a key to my fence. This is planned. Someone gave them that key. Minutes stretched. I heard boots on my back deck now, testing the doorknob, voices murmuring too low to catch words. My hand gripped the phone until knuckles ached. Then sirens, close and getting closer. Voices outside changed pitch, alarmed, urgent. I moved to the front window. 2 men sprinted around the house toward the van. Police cruisers swung onto my street, lights blazing blue and red. Officers intercepted the runners on my front lawn. Tackle, handcuffs, over in seconds. The 3rd man vaulted my back fence, disappeared into the neighbor's yard. 1 officer gave chase. The others secured suspects, pressing them face down into my grass. I opened my front door on shaking legs. Officer Martinez took my statement 20 minutes later. The suspects weren't talking, but their possessions spoke volumes. They had detailed floor plans of your home, Mr. James. Martinez showed me a photographed sketch on his phone. 2nd floor study marked as primary target. Back door entry point noted. Estimated timeline, 8 to 10 tonight. I stared at the sketch. My study, where I kept important documents, my late wife's jewelry, savings bonds, private things. How did they know about my study? Martinez's expression stayed carefully neutral. The information came from somewhere, sir. Someone familiar with your home's layout. Could they have gotten it online? Property records? Property records don't show which room you use as a study, Mr. James. He paused. The key to your fence gate. 1 suspect indicated it was provided by the person who hired them, along with specific instructions. Homeowner would be absent until 10 p.m. tonight. Someone who knew my schedule. Someone who knew I had dinner plans. Someone who knew exactly where I'd be and how long I'd be gone. Did they say who hired them? They're not talking, but we'll get there. Martinez handed me a card. Call me if anyone contacts you asking questions about tonight. After they left, I sat in my violated living room. The house felt compromised. Every shadow held potential threat. My phone lit up. Danielle calling. I watched it ring out. 2 minutes later, Brian called. I let it go to voicemail. No message. They called 8 more times between 10 p.m. and midnight. Danielle, Brian, desperate attempts at contact, never leaving messages, just trying to reach me, to find out why I never showed up, or to find out if their plan had worked. I didn't sleep, couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those 3 men with their tools and duffel bag and key. Morning came grey and cold. I crossed the street to Larry's house, knocked softly. He opened immediately, still wearing yesterday's clothes, eyes bloodshot. He hadn't slept either. His kitchen smelled like old coffee. We sat at his worn table, silent at first. I should have told you everything yesterday, Larry's voice cracked. 2 nights ago, I was taking out trash around 9. Heard a man on his phone behind my hedge. Didn't think much of it until I heard him say your address. Something made me stay quiet. Listen. He wrapped his hands around his coffee mug. It was Brian, your son-in-law. I recognized his voice from barbecues. He was giving someone instructions. My vision narrowed. What kind of instructions? He said, the old man will be at our place until 10. Back door is easiest. I'll provide the key. Everything valuable is in the second-floor study. Then he mentioned money, $1,500 up front, another $1,000 after. The words arrived, distorted and slow. My daughter's husband, the man who'd called me Pops at the wedding. My daughter's husband hired men to rob me. Saying it aloud made it real. Larry nodded miserably. I didn't know how to tell you. Didn't want to believe it myself. But I couldn't let you leave your house empty for them. You saved me from my own family. What kind of people do that to their father? Larry's hands shook around his mug. I had no answer. The question hung in the kitchen with the burnt coffee smell and grey morning light, unanswerable and terrible. I sat in my study, the same room marked primary target on those floor plans. The irony wasn't lost on me. Spread across my desk, checkbook ledger, bank statements, old calendars. Numbers tell stories if you know how to read them. March payment to Danielle, $2,000 for car repairs. June, $3,500 for Trevor's medical bills. September, $4,000 security deposit for new apartment. November, $2,800 holiday expenses and back rent. January, $2,200 utility shut-off emergency. Total, $14,500 in 1 year. Each request came with urgency, tears, gratitude. Each payment felt like being a good father. But I remembered other requests too, the ones I'd refused. Dad, it would be so much easier if you added me to your bank account, just for emergencies. My response had been gentle but firm. 2 months later, have you thought about estate planning? If something happened, the house transfer would be complicated. We should put it in my name now to avoid probate. I'd consulted my own lawyer then. Simple will suffice. No property transfer needed while I was alive and competent. Danielle had smiled, said she understood, but something in her eyes had flickered. At the time, I'd dismissed it. Now that flicker haunted me. My coffee sat untouched, gone cold. I needed answers the police couldn't provide. The Atlanta Police Department's robbery division operated from a building that had seen better decades. I found Detective Marcus Green at a desk buried under case files. He was younger than expected, early 40s, precise movements, skeptical eyes that had seen too much. I presented my theory carefully, like constructing an argument for difficult students. My son-in-law, Brian Cooper, orchestrated this robbery. My neighbor overheard him giving instructions. Green listened, took notes. His expression stayed neutral. Mr. James, your neighbor's testimony is hearsay. Without the suspects confirming who hired them, we can't move forward. They've lawyered up. One made bail this morning. The words landed heavily. I'd hoped police could handle this, spare me from confronting my daughter directly. If you believe family members are involved, you might consider civil remedies, Green continued. Document everything. A family law attorney could advise you better than I can about protecting your assets. I left understanding a fundamental truth. I was alone in this. The system couldn't protect me from my own family until after they'd succeeded in harming me. Prevention fell to me. Back home, I spent 3 days online absorbing information. Georgia law regarding financial exploitation of elderly persons, requirements for guardianship proceedings, estate planning protections, audio recording laws. Georgia had one-party consent, meaning I could legally record conversations where I participated. I created a spreadsheet tracking Danielle's requests, dates, amounts, stated reasons, verifiable outcomes. The pattern became clearer, escalating amounts, increasing urgency, growing frustration when I refused certain demands. I searched for attorneys specializing in elder financial abuse and family law. Patricia Mitchell's name appeared repeatedly with 5-star ratings. Tough but fair, protected my father from exploitation. No-nonsense approach. Her consultation fee was $250, money well spent for expertise. Patricia Mitchell's office occupied the 3rd floor of a modest midtown building. The waiting room was professional but not ostentatious. Good sign. Mitchell herself was 50-something, direct gaze, handshake that meant business. I told the story chronologically. The warning, attempted robbery, Larry's revelation, the pattern of financial requests. Mitchell took notes in precise handwriting, interrupted only for clarification. When I finished, she set down her pen. "Mr. James, you're describing a pattern of financial manipulation with an escalation to attempted theft. The fact that it's your daughter complicates emotional aspects, but not legal ones." Her bluntness was reassuring. "Georgia law allows you to record conversations where you're a participant. Document everything, every request, every interaction. Keep a detailed journal with dates and times. If they contact you, record it." She leaned forward. "Don't confront them directly yet. If they know you're aware of their plans, they'll adjust tactics. Right now, you have the advantage. They think the robbery was random bad luck. Let them believe that while you build your case." I nodded, absorbing the strategy. "Also, we should review your estate documents and financial accounts. Make sure nothing gives them access they could exploit." The consultation cost exactly what she quoted. No hidden fees, no upselling. I scheduled a follow-up and left with clear directive. Investigate quietly, document thoroughly, reveal nothing. Back home, I stood in my study again. The room felt different now, not violated but fortified. I was no longer a victim waiting for rescue. I was an investigator building a case. I retrieved an old composition notebook, the kind I'd used for lesson planning, and labeled it simply documentation. First entry, March 16, 2025. Learned from neighbor Larry Adams that son-in-law Brian Cooper hired men to rob my home. Police cannot act without confession. Consulted attorney Patricia Mitchell, beginning independent investigation. My phone buzzed. Text from Danielle. "Dad, are you okay? You haven't called me back. I'm worried about you." The manipulation was transparent now. Feigned concern, masking worry that I suspected something. I stared at the message, formulating my response. She didn't know it yet, but the game had changed. I wasn't the confused old man she thought I was. Not anymore. I rehearsed my approach before dialing. My voice needed to convey concern, not suspicion, confusion, not accusation. I was playing a role now, the worried father trying to understand why armed men had targeted his home. The recording app was already running when I pressed call. 3 rings. Then Danielle answered. "Dad, finally! I've been so worried. Why haven't you returned my calls?" Relief and reproach in equal measure. I delivered my prepared response. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. The break-in shook me up more than I expected. Police interviews, changing locks, security system installation. I needed some time to feel safe in my own home again." The lie flowed smoothly. I had changed locks, installed cameras, all true, but my tone suggested vulnerable old man, not strategic investigator. "Of course, Dad. That must have been terrifying. Do the police know who did it?" I hesitated deliberately. 2 men arrested, 1 escaped. They won't tell me much about the investigation." "Well, you shouldn't be alone too much after something like that. Let me take you to lunch. Check on you properly." I agreed, named a cafe in Virginia Highland, public neutral territory, good acoustics for recording. We set a time for the following day. The cafe occupied a converted house, all exposed brick and reclaimed wood. I arrived early, chose a table away from kitchen noise, but surrounded by enough ambient conversation that our discussion wouldn't stand out. My phone sat on the table, recording app running, screen locked. Danielle arrived exactly on time, dressed professionally as though coming from work. I knew from research she'd been terminated 8 months ago, though she'd told me she was still employed. She hugged me. I forced myself not to stiffen, and sat across from me, concern etched in her features. "You look tired, Dad." She was right. I hadn't slept well since learning the truth. That's normal after trauma like this. I keep thinking about what could have happened if I'd gone to your place for dinner that night as planned. Something flickered in Danielle's expression. Fear, guilt, it vanished quickly. "Thank goodness you weren't feeling well. Sometimes instinct protects us." She ordered a latte. I declined, couldn't risk distraction. The conversation shifted naturally to her purpose. Money. Dad, I hate bringing this up when you're dealing with so much. The preamble was familiar. But we're in a really difficult position. Brian's company did another round of cuts. His salary's been reduced by 30%. We're 3 months behind on rent. The landlord's threatening eviction. We need $8,000 or we'll be on the street with Trevor. I let silence stretch, watching her. The performance was polished. Downcast eyes, trembling fingers around her coffee cup, voice breaking slightly on Trevor's name. Years ago, this would have devastated me. Opened my wallet immediately. Now I saw the technique, using my love for my grandson as leverage. 8,000 is a significant amount, I said carefully. Things are tight for me too. The robbery, new security measures, potential insurance increases. Danielle's expression hardened fractionally before she controlled it. I understand. I just don't know what we'll do. Trevor's in the middle of the school year. Moving would disrupt everything. I promised to think about it and see what I can manage. The conversation ended with Danielle hugging me again, whispering, "Thank you for being the best father," in my ear. I maintained character until she left, then stopped the recording, every word preserved. The school sat in a mixed neighborhood, old trees shading the pickup area. I'd timed my arrival carefully, 15 minutes after dismissal, when most cars had departed, but students still clustered in groups. I parked across the street, watching. Trevor emerged with 2 friends, backpacks slung over one shoulder, laughing at something on his phone. I waited until the friends separated, then called out, "Trevor!" His head snapped up, face transforming with surprise and joy. He jogged across the street. "Grandpa, what are you doing here?" I manufactured casualness. "Doctor's appointment nearby. Thought I'd see if I caught you." We fell into step together, walking toward a small park 2 blocks away. I asked about school, classes, friends. Trevor talked eagerly, starved for adult attention that wasn't demanding or critical. Over the next week, I engineered 3 more encounters. Each time, Trevor opened up more. During our 4th walk, his guard dropped completely. "Mom and Dad argue about money again. It's all they talk about lately." I asked gently if things were okay at home. Trevor shrugged. "Mom says she's working, but she's always home when I get back from school. Dad comes home really late, like past midnight sometimes, and he's always stressed." The information slotted into my growing picture. Danielle unemployed but lying. Brian keeping late hours. Gambling debts explaining his schedule. Their desperation real, if not their honesty about causes. On our 5th meeting, I brought something wrapped in an old box. I was cleaning out drawers and found this, my old iPhone from a few years ago. Still works fine. Activated it with its own number and paid for service through the year. Thought you might want it as a backup for emergencies. Trevor hesitated. "Mom and Dad check my phone pretty regularly." I nodded slowly. "That's why this one stays between us. You don't have to tell them. Every kid should have something private. Just be responsible with it." The boy understood instinctively. His grandfather was offering freedom from surveillance. "Won't you need it back?" I shook my head. "It's yours, and if you ever need to reach me, if anything happens and you can't use your regular phone, you'll have a way." Trevor accepted the phone, something shifting in his expression. "Grandpa, is everything okay between you and Mom and Dad?" I chose words carefully. Sometimes adults have complicated situations. What matters is you know I'm always here if you need me. This phone means you can always reach me no matter what. That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from the new number. "Thanks for the phone, Grandpa, and for listening to me. I miss spending time with you." My response was simple. "Miss you too. I'm always here." The connection was established, a line of communication his mother couldn't intercept. I drove to the estate planning office Patricia Mitchell recommended, a firm specializing in elder law protections. The attorney, Sarah Lawson, was methodical, precise. I explained my situation without excessive detail. "I need to revise my will with provisions that discourage legal challenges." The no contest clause was her suggestion. If any beneficiary contests the will, they forfeit their inheritance entirely. It discourages frivolous challenges motivated by greed. My previous will left everything to Danielle, my only child, my expected heir. The new structure felt like amputation. Primary beneficiary became Trevor through a trust fund accessible at 21, 20% to an educational charity honoring my teaching career. Danielle received 10%. The no contest clause only works if she receives something, Lawson explained. Zero inheritance invites challenge regardless. 10% creates a calculation, challenge and risk losing guaranteed money, or accept reduced amount. I signed the revised documents. Cost, $200. The signature felt heavy, final. Back home, I placed certified copies in a new fireproof safe. My daughter would inherit a fraction of what she expected, and only if she accepted it quietly. The security company arrived that afternoon. 2 technicians spent 4 hours installing cameras covering every entrance, motion sensors on windows, monitoring system linked to my phone. I watched them work, thinking about those floor plans the intruders carried. My home's layout had been someone's blueprint for violation. Indoor cameras? The lead technician asked. I hesitated, then agreed. Living room, hallway, study, not bedrooms or bathrooms. I maintained some dignity, but common areas now under surveillance. Cost, $890 for equipment and installation. The locksmith came next. Every exterior door got new deadbolts, different key pattern. The fence gate received a combination lock. No physical key existed for anyone to copy or steal. Only I knew the code. Cost, $320. By evening, my house felt transformed, secure, but also fortified. A castle where I once had a home. The bank's safety deposit box area occupied a vault behind 2 locked doors. I carried a duffel bag containing items I couldn't risk losing. Title deed, stock certificates, my late wife's jewelry, birth certificates, passport, the original copy of my new will. Annual rental is $180, the banker confirmed. I signed the agreement, received my key. The box itself was narrow but deep, plenty of room. I transferred everything, kept only copies of essential paperwork at home. If someone broke in again, they'd find nothing worth stealing. Back home, I created comprehensive evidence folders, printed bank statements highlighting Danielle's loans, transcripts of recorded conversations, timeline of events, copies of police reports, everything organized chronologically, labeled clearly. 1 copy stayed in my study safe, another went to the bank box, a third to Patricia Mitchell's office. Documentation felt like building a legal fortress, brick by brick. Danielle called on April 18th, 12 days after our CAF meeting. I'd been expecting this. Enough time had passed that my silence screamed refusal. I activated my recording app, answered on the 3rd ring. Dad, I haven't heard from you about what we discussed. Barely restrained frustration. We're running out of time. The eviction notice is final. We need that $8,000 by the end of the month, or we're homeless. I delivered my prepared response, voice steady. Danielle, I've thought carefully about your request. I can't help this time. My expenses have increased. Medical bills, home security after the break-in. I simply don't have $8,000 to spare. Silence stretched across the connection. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. The pleading warmth had frozen into something harder, colder. I see. So after everything I've done for you over the years, you won't help when I desperately need it. I didn't take the bait. I'm sorry you're in this position. I understand completely. I hope you won't regret this decision. A pause, then with deliberate emphasis. I really hope you don't regret it. The threat wasn't subtle. I kept my voice calm. Is that a threat, Danielle? She recovered quickly, false surprise entering her tone. Of course not, Dad. I'm just worried about you. You're alone, getting older, making decisions that might not be in your best interest. The implication landed clearly. She was suggesting I was mentally incompetent. I appreciate your concern. I'm fine. I ended the call, stopped the recording, sat in silence. The evidence folder just gained another critical piece. I texted Patricia Mitchell. Danielle just implied I'll regret refusing her money and questioned my decision-making ability. Recorded conversation. What's the next move? The response came within minutes. Save that recording. If she's suggesting incompetence, she might pursue guardianship. We need to document your cognitive health immediately. I called Dr. Wilson's office the next morning. I'd been seeing him for 12 years. He knew my medical history, my consistent health. The appointment was scheduled for April 23rd, comprehensive cognitive assessment and physical examination. Patricia Mitchell provided a second referral. Dr. Helen Reeves, a geriatric specialist, who conducted independent competency evaluations for legal proceedings. Her assessment carried weight in court, appointment scheduled for April 27th. Between the 2 evaluations, I'd have medical documentation proving my mental acuity. The preparations felt grimly prophetic. I wasn't imagining threats. I was reading the obvious trajectory. Danielle failed to access my money through requests and robbery. Now she'd attempt legal control. Guardianship would give her authority over my finances, my property, my life decisions. questions, but I was preparing my defense before the attack fully launched. I sent Trevor a message on the private phone. "Everything okay at your house?" The response came during his lunch break. "Parents arguing more. Mom seems really stressed. Dad slammed a door last night." I replied, "Stay safe. Remember, you can always reach me on this number if you need anything." The stage was set. I'd secured my assets, documented threats, prepared medical evidence. Now I waited for my daughter's next move, knowing it would come. Dr. Wilson's office had the comfortable familiarity of 12 years' acquaintance. But today's visit carried different weight. I completed the intake form, noting the purpose: comprehensive cognitive evaluation for legal documentation. The examination was thorough: memory tests, recalling word lists, repeating number sequences backward, remembering details from a short story, problem solving, explaining proverbs, identifying patterns, working through logic puzzles, orientation, date, location, current events, physical coordination, and reflexes. The process took 90 minutes. "Vernon, your cognitive function is excellent for any age, let alone 68, Dr. Wilson concluded. "Memory, reasoning, orientation, all within normal ranges. Many scores above average. No indication whatsoever of dementia, cognitive decline, or impairment in decision-making capacity." The official report documented every test and result. Dr. Wilson added a summary: "Patient demonstrates full mental competency and capacity for independent living and financial decision-making. No medical basis for questioning his ability to manage his affairs." I took the sealed envelope, paid my copay, $340 with insurance. Back home, Larry was waiting on my porch, agitated. "We need to talk." Inside, away from potential eavesdroppers, he explained, "Your daughter has been calling neighbors. She called me yesterday, asking if I'd noticed you, seeming confused lately, forgetting things, getting lost on walks." My stomach tightened. "What did you tell her?" "That you seem sharp as ever. But she said she was gathering information for a medical evaluation, that she's worried about you living alone. She asked if I'd be willing to provide a statement about your mental state." Mrs. Rodriguez from 3 doors down had a similar call. So did the Hendersons across the street. Danielle was systematically contacting people who knew me, planting suggestions, fishing for witnesses. "She's building a case," I said quietly, "trying to establish a pattern of witnesses who'll say I'm incompetent." Larry nodded. "What are you going to do? Document everything? I need you to write down exactly what she said, date and time. Ask Mrs. Rodriguez and the Hendersons to do the same. This is evidence of false claims." That evening, I visited each neighbor. They were sympathetic, concerned. "Your daughter seems so worried about you," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "But honestly, Vernon, you seem fine to me, better than my husband was at your age." Each neighbor agreed to provide written statements about what Danielle asked and their actual observations of my behavior. The statements directly contradicted any claim of noticeable mental decline. Through Trevor's secret phone, I received an unexpected message. "Grandpa, Mom took Dad's car today and came home with a folder. I heard her tell Dad it cost $2,500, and now we have what we need." She seemed excited, but also nervous. The information was vague but troubling. I texted back, "Did you see what was in the folder?" Trevor responded, "No, but I heard her say something about evaluation and documentation. Dad asked if it would hold up in court, and she said the guy promised it would." I forwarded the messages to Patricia Mitchell. Her response came within an hour. "They've obtained a private evaluation claiming incompetence. Probably paid someone to write favorable assessment. Schedule that geriatric evaluation immediately and send me your results from Dr. Wilson." The pattern was clear. Danielle was creating manufactured evidence to support a guardianship petition. Dr. Helen Reeves practiced from a medical building in Buckhead, her office displaying credentials from prestigious institutions. I explained the situation frankly. "My daughter is attempting to obtain guardianship. I believe she'll present fraudulent evidence of mental incompetence." Dr. Reeves was unflappable. "I evaluate objectively. If you're competent, my assessment will reflect that. If you're not, it will reflect that too." The examination was even more rigorous than Dr. Wilson's. Extended cognitive batteries, psychological screening, functional assessment of daily living skills, financial management capability tests. 3 hours later, she delivered her conclusion. "Mr. James, you demonstrate full cognitive capacity. Your memory, reasoning, and judgment are intact. You show no signs of dementia or any condition that would impair your ability to make independent decisions. I'll prepare a detailed report for legal use." The cost was $560. I received the preliminary report that day, with the formal, notarized version to follow within a week. 2 independent medical professionals had now documented my mental competence. The courier arrived on May 9th, delivering legal documents. Danielle had filed a petition in Fulton County Probate Court seeking emergency temporary guardianship. The grounds: advanced age, cognitive decline, inability to manage financial affairs, risk of self-harm through poor decision-making. The petition included an attachment, a psychological evaluation by Kevin Morris, Ph.D., claiming I exhibited significant memory impairment, confusion, disorientation, and impaired judgment consistent with moderate dementia. I read it twice. This Kevin Morris had produced a detailed assessment without ever meeting me, examining me, or conducting any legitimate testing. Fraud, but convincing fraud. The hearing was scheduled for June 4th, less than 4 weeks to prepare. I immediately scanned the documents and emailed them to Patricia Mitchell, calling before the email finished sending. "They've filed," I said without preamble. Patricia's response was crisp. "Forward everything. I'll file our response and request the court appoint an independent evaluator. We'll submit your medical assessments, the neighbor statements, documentation of Danielle's financial motives. This Kevin Morris, I'll research his credentials. If he's fabricated this evaluation, we'll expose it." I hung up, feeling both violated and vindicated. Danielle had made her move, but unlike the robbery attempt, this time I saw it coming. The battle was joined, and I was ready. Patricia Mitchell slid a business card across her desk. "Roger Phillips, former Atlanta PD, 20 years in financial crimes. He's expensive but thorough. $150 per hour plus expenses. What you need is documentation of their actual financial situation, not just what they've told you." I examined the card. 3 weeks until the hearing. The decision wasn't difficult. What exactly can he find? Patricia ticked off items. Bank records through legal database access, credit reports, employment verification, public records, transaction patterns, everything that paints the real picture. The meeting with Roger Phillips happened the next afternoon at a nondescript office in a business park. Phillips was mid-50s, weathered face, eyes that assessed and catalogued. I explained without emotion. "My daughter is seeking guardianship, claiming concern for my welfare. I believe her actual motive is financial desperation. I need documentation proving it." Phillips took notes, asked precise questions. "Standard financial background investigation. I'll need a retainer. 1,500 covers, initial 10 hours plus database fees. If I need more time, I'll notify you." I wrote the check without hesitation. 6 days later, Phillips delivered his report in person. 43 pages of documented catastrophe. He walked us through the highlights, tone clinical and factual. Brian Cooper, total documented debts, $85,000. Credit cards maxed and in collections. 4 cards totaling $32,000. Personal loan default, $18,000. The rest is interesting. He produced bank statements with highlighted transactions. Large cash withdrawals over past 18 months, matching deposits to offshore accounts, connected to online poker and sports betting platforms. I absorbed the information, recognizing Trevor's observations, Brian's late nights, his stress. Multiple payday loans in collection, car 3 months behind on payments, repossession warning issued, several bounce checks to the apartment complex. They're currently owed $7,200 for 3 months. The section on Danielle was equally damning. Employment termination 8 months ago from Brookside Management. Reason listed internally as financial irregularities. Asked to resign rather than face embezzlement charges for $1,200 missing from petty cash. She signed a separation agreement waiving unemployment rights in exchange for no prosecution. Phillips produced the separation agreement. No subsequent employment. Unemployment benefits expired 4 months ago. Bank accounts consistently overdrawn. The apartment lease shows eviction proceedings filed. They have until end of May to pay arrears or vacate. That's 9 days from now. I studied the papers, seeing my daughter's desperation quantified in numbers and legal notices. Patricia broke the silence. "This establishes clear financial motive for the guardianship petition." Phillips wasn't finished. "I also investigated Kevin Morris, the psychologist who signed their evaluation. He produced another document. Licensed in Georgia currently, but that's recent, 18 months. Before that, he practiced in Alabama until the state board revoked his license for falsifying assessment documents in 3 separate custody cases. He spent 2 years unlicensed, then obtained Georgia credentials. Based on his tax records, he generates income almost exclusively from court-related evaluations." Patricia's eyes narrowed. He's selling favorable assessments. My daughter hadn't just exaggerated concerns. She'd purchased manufactured evidence from someone with a history of falsification. The final cost for Phillips's investigation, $2,200 total, worth every cent. 2 days later, my secret phone buzzed with a message from Trevor. Grandpa, something weird. Mom left her laptop open and I saw messages. She was texting someone about selling your house and moving to Florida after the court stuff is settled. Should I screenshot? My pulse quickened. Documentary evidence of premeditation. Yes, but be very careful. Don't let them see you looking. Delete the message thread between us after you send screenshots. Within minutes, 3 images arrived. The first showed Danielle texting a friend. Once we get control, first thing is selling that house. Market value around $420K. Even after paying off mortgage, we'll clear $380K minimum. Finally done struggling. The second was more explicit. Brian found a realtor in Florida already. We're thinking Tampa area, cheaper cost of living, fresh start. Another month or two, and we can finally live normally off that money. The third message chilled me. Trevor won't understand at first, but he'll adjust. Kids are resilient. Once we're set up in Florida with actual financial stability, he'll see it was the right move. I forwarded the screenshots to Patricia immediately, then texted Trevor. Perfect. Now delete these messages between us and clear the deleted folder. Be safe. Trevor confirmed. Done. They're arguing again about money. Mom's crying. The screenshots completed the evidentiary picture. Danielle wasn't seeking guardianship to protect me. She was planning to liquidate my assets and relocate, disrupting Trevor's life, all to solve problems created by gambling and mismanagement. The week before the hearing transformed Patricia's conference room into a war room. Evidence organized into categories, each piece tagged and cross-referenced. Medical documentation, financial investigation, audio recordings, neighbor testimonies, Trevor's screenshots. Patricia prepared her examination strategy. We'll let them present their case first. They'll call whatever neighbors Danielle recruited, present Morris's fraudulent evaluation, paint you as confused. Then we systematically dismantle every claim. She outlined the sequence. Medical experts establish your competence. Neighbor depositions show witness tampering. Financial investigation reveals motive. Morris's history discredits his evaluation. Recordings expose threats. Screenshots prove premeditation. The judge will see this isn't about welfare. It's about money. 3 days before the hearing, I received a text from an unknown number. This is Danielle. We need to talk before court. Let's resolve this as a family. I showed Patricia. Don't respond. Any communication now could suggest manipulation, susceptibility. Stay silent. I deleted the message without replying. June 3rd, the night before the hearing. I sat in my study, the room where this began, where intruders had planned to steal, where I now prepared to defend my autonomy. The house was quiet behind new locks and cameras. Documents rested in my safe, copies with Patricia, backups in the bank box. I messaged Trevor one final time. Tomorrow is important. Whatever happens, remember I'm fighting for both of us. Trevor responded, I know, Grandpa. Mom and Dad have been weird all week. Nervous, but also like they think they've already won. I'm scared, but I trust you. My reply was simple. See you on the other side of this. Morning would bring confrontation. Tomorrow, truth would face lies in a courtroom, and I intended truth to win. Character count, 5,717 characters, including spaces. Part 7, revealing the truth. Patricia Mitchell slid a business card across her desk. Roger Phillips, former Atlanta PD, 20 years in financial crimes, $150 per hour plus expenses. What you need is documentation of their actual financial situation. I examined the card. 3 weeks until the hearing. What exactly can he find? Bank records, credit reports, employment verification, transaction patterns, everything that paints the real picture. The meeting with Phillips happened the next afternoon. He was mid-50s, weathered face, eyes that assessed and catalogued. I explained without emotion. My daughter is seeking guardianship. I believe her actual motive is financial desperation. I need documentation. Phillips took notes. Standard investigation. 1,500 retainer covers, initial 10 hours plus database fees. I wrote the check without hesitation. 6 days later, Phillips delivered his report, 43 pages of documented catastrophe. Brian Cooper, total debts, $85,000, credit cards maxed, $32,000 in collections, personal loan default, $18,000. He produced bank statements, large cash withdrawals matching deposits to offshore accounts, online poker, and sports betting platforms. I recognized Trevor's observations, Brian's late nights, his stress, multiple payday loans in collection, car 3 months behind, repossession warning issued, they're $7,200 behind on rent, eviction filed, 9 days until deadline. Danielle's section was equally damning. Employment termination 8 months ago from Brookside Management for financial irregularities, asked to resign rather than face embezzlement charges for $1,200 missing. Signed separation agreement, waiving unemployment in exchange for no prosecution. Phillips produced the document. No subsequent employment. Benefits expired. Eviction proceedings active. I studied the papers, seeing desperation quantified. Patricia spoke. Clear financial motive. Phillips continued. I investigated Kevin Morris, the psychologist. Licensed in Georgia 18 months. Before that, practiced in Alabama until State Board revoked his license for falsifying assessment documents in 3 custody cases. 2 years unlicensed, then obtained Georgia credentials, generates income almost exclusively from paid court evaluations. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Selling favorable assessments. My daughter had purchased manufactured evidence from someone with falsification history. Final cost, $2,200, worth every cent. 2 days later, my secret phone buzzed. Trevor. Grandpa. Something weird. Mom left her laptop open, saw messages about selling your house, and moving to Florida after the court stuff is settled. Should I screenshot? My pulse quickened. Yes, but be very careful. Don't let them see. Delete our message thread after sending. 3 images arrived minutes later. First, once we get control, first thing is selling that house. Market value $420K, clear $380K minimum. Finally done struggling. Second, Brian found Florida realtor already. Tampa area, cheaper living, fresh start. Another month or 2, and we can live normally off that money. Third, Trevor won't understand at first, but he'll adjust. Kids are resilient. Once we're set up with financial stability, he'll see it was right. I forwarded screenshots to Patricia, texted Trevor. Perfect. Delete our messages and clear deleted folder. Trevor confirmed. Done. They're arguing about money again. The screenshots completed the picture. Danielle planning to liquidate assets and relocate, disrupting Trevor's life to solve gambling-created problems. The week before hearing, Patricia's conference room became war room. Evidence organized, tagged, cross-referenced, medical documentation, financial investigation, audio recording, neighbor testimonies, screenshots. Patricia outlined strategy. We'll let them present first. Neighbors, Morris's evaluation, confused old man narrative. Then we dismantle everything. Medical experts establish competence. Depositions show witness tampering. Financial investigation reveals motive. Morris's history discredits evaluation. Recordings expose threats. Screenshots prove premeditation. 3 days before hearing, unknown number texted, "This is Danielle. We need to talk before court. Let's resolve this as a family." I showed Patricia. Don't respond. Stay silent. I deleted the message. June 3rd, night before hearing. I sat in my study, where intruders planned theft, where I now prepared to defend autonomy. House quiet behind new locks and cameras. Documents in safe. Copies with Patricia. Backups in bank. I messaged Trevor. Tomorrow is important. Whatever happens, remember I'm fighting for both of us. Trevor. I know, Grandpa. Mom and Dad weird all week. Nervous, but like they think they've won. I'm scared, but I trust you. My reply. See you on the other side of this. I didn't sleep much. Morning would bring confrontation. My daughter attempting to seize control. Me prepared to prove she had no right. Evidence assembled. Strategy set. Tomorrow, truth would face lies in courtroom. I intended truth to win. The Fulton County Probate Court building carried bureaucracy's weight. Security checkpoints. Marble floors worn by decades. I passed through the metal detector, followed Patricia to the 3rd floor courtroom. Danielle stood near the entrance with Brian and their attorney. Nervous man, in ill-fitting suit, clutching a thin folder. She saw me. Something flickered across her face. Not shame, calculation maybe, or confidence's last flare before doubt. Patricia guided me to the respondents' table. Across the aisle, Gordon Sims fumbled with papers. Already overwhelmed, Patricia leaned close. Stay calm regardless. Every lie strengthens our position. The bailiff called order. Judge Elizabeth Hayworth entered. Early 60s, gray hair, sharp eyes suggesting she'd heard every manipulation. She reviewed the file, looked up. Guardianship petition filed by Danielle Cooper regarding Vernon James. Let's proceed. Sims Sims stood, clearing his throat. Your Honor, my client seeks emergency guardianship due to advanced age and cognitive decline impairing ability to manage affairs safely. We have documentation and witness testimony. He called Mrs. Henderson first. She took the stand, looking uncomfortable. Under questioning, she testified Danielle called expressing concern about me, seeming confused, forgetting conversations, appearing disoriented. Patricia rose for cross-examination, voice crisp. Mrs. Henderson, have you personally observed Mr. James exhibiting confusion? The woman hesitated. Well, Danielle said, not what Ms. Cooper told you. What have you personally witnessed? Mrs. Henderson shifted. I suppose I haven't noticed anything specific, but he's older, and Danielle seemed genuinely worried. So, your testimony is based entirely on Ms. Cooper's representations, not your own observations. I guess that's accurate. Two more neighbors testified with similar results, concerned based on Danielle's claims, unable to identify specific instances of observable impairment. Patricia's cross-examinations exposed coached hearsay. Then Sims presented Kevin Morris's evaluation. Dr. Morris conducted thorough psychological assessment, concluding Mr. James exhibits moderate dementia requiring supervised care. He submitted the report. Judge Hayworth reviewed it, expression neutral but attentive. Patricia called Dr. Wilson first. I've been Mr. James's physician for 12 years. I conducted comprehensive cognitive testing 6 weeks ago. His memory, reasoning, and judgment are intact and age-appropriate. I found no evidence of dementia or impairment in decision-making capacity. Under Patricia's questioning, he provided specific test results. The testimony was clinical, authoritative, unassailable. Next, Dr. Helen Reeves, the geriatric specialist. Mr. James demonstrates full cognitive capacity. There is no medical basis for questioning his ability to live independently or manage his affairs. Patricia introduced neighbor depositions, written statements documenting Danielle's calls soliciting negative observations. Your Honor, the petitioner systematically contacted neighbors attempting to manufacture witness testimony that doesn't exist. Then she pivoted to motive. Financial documentation piece by piece. Brian's gambling debts, Danielle's embezzlement termination, eviction proceedings, desperate circumstances. The petitioner's motive isn't welfare concern, it's access to assets to resolve financial crisis. Judge Hayworth's attention sharpened. The turning point. Patricia requested permission to question Morris's credentials. The judge allowed it. Patricia produced documents. Dr. Morris's Alabama license was revoked 2 years ago for falsifying assessment documents in 3 custody cases. He obtained Georgia licensing 18 months ago, but maintains no malpractice insurance and generates income almost exclusively from paid evaluations. She looked at the judge. Your Honor, Dr. Morris never examined Mr. James. This assessment was purchased for $2,500. Manufactured opinion from a professional with falsification history. It's fraud, Sims objected weakly. Judge Hayworth silenced him, addressed Patricia. Can you substantiate Morris never examined the respondent? Patricia produced Trevor's screenshot showing Danielle's text about paying for evaluation. The petitioner's own communications confirm it was purchased without examination. The judge's expression hardened. She asked Sims, Counselor, did your client inform you Morris never evaluated Mr. James? Sims stammered. Court. Either answer damned his case. Patricia's final blow. Audio recordings. Georgia is one-party consent. Mr. James legally recorded conversations with his daughter. She played Danielle's threat. I hope you won't regret this decision. You're alone, getting older, making decisions that might not be in your best interest. The courtroom heard Danielle's voice, cold, calculating, threatening. Patricia provided context. Recorded after Mr. James refused to loan $8,000. Her response was questioning his competence and implying consequences. Judge Hayworth called brief recess, returned with decision formulated. This petition is denied. Evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates Mr. James possesses full cognitive capacity. More troubling, this appears to be an attempt to obtain control through fraudulent medical claims. She continued, deliberate. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of possible fraud, perjury, and elder exploitation. The submission of fabricated psychological evaluation constitutes potential criminal conduct. Danielle's face drained of color. Brian gripped the table. Ms. Cooper, this petition was not filed in good faith. but rather in bad faith pursuit of financial control. Future petitions without substantial new evidence risk sanctions for abuse of process. The gavel fell. Patricia gathered documents while I absorbed totality of victory, defeated guardianship, exposed fraud, criminal investigation initiated. Danielle intercepted us in the hallway, Brian hovering behind. Her voice shook with fury. "You did this. You turned everything against us. You'll regret this, I promise. You'll never see Trevor again. I'll make sure of it." I met her eyes, voice quiet but steel reinforced. "We'll see about that." I knew what she didn't. This battle was over, but the war continued. Patricia guided me toward the elevator. Behind us, Danielle's voice rose. "He's my son. You have no right." I didn't look back. The elevator doors closed on my daughter's rage. I allowed myself one moment of weary satisfaction before my mind turned to what came next. Protecting Trevor from the fallout. My regular phone remained silent. No calls from Danielle, no requests to see Trevor. The message was clear. Her courthouse threat wasn't posturing, but the secret phone told a different story. Messages arrived throughout each day, windows into a household disintegrating. "Grandpa, they're fighting again. Dad threw something against the wall." Later, "Mum said your name like a curse word. She's crying a lot." Most troubling, "I heard them talking about making you fix what you did to them. Dad said something about one last option. What does that mean?" I screenshotted every message, forwarded them to Patricia with timestamps. The pattern wasn't just anger, it was premeditation. They were discussing forcing me to voluntarily transfer assets, talking about leverage and pressure points. I responded carefully. "Keep the phone hidden and charged. Tell me immediately if they try to take you somewhere unexpected, or if anyone strange contacts you. You're not in trouble. I'm just being careful." Trevor's reply. "They don't know I'm telling you this stuff, right? I feel bad, but something's really wrong here," I assured him. "You're doing the right thing. Sometimes protecting people means telling the truth even when it's uncomfortable." The call came July 10th. Detective Green's voice carried satisfaction. "Mr. James, we've had a development. Marcus Webb is facing additional charges. His attorney approached us about cooperation." I sat forward. "What kind of cooperation?" "Webb is willing to testify about who hired him in exchange for reduced sentencing. He's provided phone records showing calls from Brian Cooper's number, records of a $1,500 payment 2 days before the attempted break-in." The pieces clicked into place. What happens next? "We're obtaining a warrant for Mr. Cooper's arrest on conspiracy to commit burglary. We'll also question your daughter. Given the guardianship petition and their financial situation, there's clear motive." I provided Green with copies from the guardianship case, financial investigation, recordings, Trevor's screenshots. "This shows premeditation beyond the single robbery attempt," Green acknowledged. "I'll coordinate with the DA. Expect movement within days." July 15th arrived with swift justice. Brian was arrested at work, led out in handcuffs past colleagues and customers. The humiliation was public and complete. Green later described the interrogation. Mr. Cooper attempted denial, then minimization. Eventually he claimed the entire scheme was your daughter's idea, that she manipulated him because of her desperation. Whether true or deflection didn't matter legally, both were culpable. Danielle was brought in that evening. During interrogation, police executed a search warrant on their apartment. What they found was damning. Text messages discussing getting what dad owes us, planning robbery timing, discussing guardianship as plan B when plan A failed, and most recently messages about making him understand he has to cooperate or lose Trevor permanently. Danielle was arrested for conspiracy to commit burglary and attempted fraud. As officers processed her, she demanded to call me. "Tell him this is his fault. Tell him he's destroyed his own family." With both parents arrested, Child Protective Services took emergency custody of Trevor. The call came at 9:30 that evening. "Mr. James, I'm Sarah Chen from CPS. We've placed Trevor Cooper in emergency foster care. He mentioned you're his grandfather and asked us to contact you." My heart clenched. "Where is he? Is he safe?" "He's with an experienced foster family. He's understandably upset, but physically fine. Given the circumstances, you may want to petition for temporary kinship placement. Do you have an attorney?" I already had Patricia on speed dial. By next morning, we were filing emergency kinship placement documents. The petition outlined criminal charges, my relationship with Trevor, the boy's expressed desire to stay with me, my financial stability, my home's safety. The hearing was scheduled with unusual speed. Trevor attended, accompanied by a caseworker. When asked by the judge about his preference, his voice was clear. I want to stay with my grandpa. He's the only one who's been honest with me through all this. Judge Morrison reviewed my background check, home assessment, financial documentation, character references. Patricia presented evidence that I'd been a stable presence in Trevor's life, that the secret phone was given specifically so he could maintain contact when his parents' behavior became concerning. Given the circumstances and the minor's clearly expressed preference, I'm granting temporary kinship placement to Vernon James pending resolution of the parents' criminal cases. The gavel fell. Trevor and I left the courthouse together, the boy carrying a small duffel bag containing everything CPS allowed him to take. We drove in silence at first. Finally, he spoke. Grandpa, did my parents really try to rob you? I chose honesty. Yes, they did. I'm sorry you had to learn this way. Trevor stared out the window. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe your family. I nodded. Family should mean trust and care. When people violate that, it hurts worse than anything. But you're not responsible for their choices. We pulled into my driveway, the house Trevor visited countless times before Danielle began restricting access. This is your home now, I said, for as long as you need it. Your room is ready. I set it up yesterday once I knew you'd be coming. Trevor's eyes glistened, but he didn't cry. Thank you for not giving up on me when they tried to keep us apart. I squeezed his shoulder. Never. You're my family, the kind worth fighting for. Brian's trial proceeded first. His attorney negotiated a plea agreement rather than risk jury trial. Standing before the judge in an orange jumpsuit, Brian accepted responsibility for conspiracy to commit burglary. The prosecutor detailed the scheme, hiring Marcus Webb, providing house layout, timing information, paying advance fee. The judge's sentencing was matter of fact, 4 years in state prison. Additional charges surfaced. Fraud related to falsified loan applications, identity theft, bad checks, financial crimes committed during his gambling spiral. The judge added 2 years probation after release, restitution payments, permanent felony record. I attended the sentencing, sitting quietly. Brian didn't look at me. The man who married my daughter, who played loving son-in-law while plotting robbery, left in chains. I felt no triumph, only grim closure. Danielle's case was more complicated. Her attorney argued she was manipulated by Brian, didn't directly participate in hiring the burglars, but the prosecutor presented her text messages discussing robbery timing, her guardianship petition as conspiracy continuation, her threats against me. The plea agreement spared her prison, 2 years probation for conspiracy and attempted fraud. But there was a second proceeding, termination of parental rights. The state argued Danielle used Trevor as leverage, exposed him to criminal conspiracy, created an unstable and dangerous environment. Trevor was asked to testify. I watched my grandson take the stand, voice steady despite obvious emotion. My mom used me to manipulate my grandpa. She'd tell me to ask him for money, to say things that would make him feel guilty. She kept me away from him when he wouldn't do what she wanted. I don't think she saw me as her son, more like a tool to get what she needed. The judge's decision was swift. Parental rights terminated based on pattern of manipulation, criminal conduct, and prioritization of financial gain over child's welfare. Danielle would complete probation, but Trevor was legally freed from her custody permanently. The permanent custody hearing occurred mid-August, hot Georgia summer, pressing against courthouse windows. Trevor testified about wanting to live with me permanently. My grandpa is the only person who treated me like a human being instead of a tool. He's honest with me, even when the truth is hard. I trust him. I want to stay with him. The judge granted full legal custody and guardianship to Vernon James. Papers were signed, official seals affixed. I was now legally responsible for Trevor's education, health care, welfare, everything. The wait was considerable but welcome. Outside, Trevor asked, "What happens if my mom gets out and tries to take me back?" My answer was direct. She can't. Her parental rights are terminated. Legally, she has no more claim to you than a stranger would. You're safe. I scheduled another meeting with Sarah Lawson, the estate planning attorney. The previous will structure, trust fund at 21, no longer made sense. Trevor was living with me now, dependent on me. I want everything to go directly to Trevor, I explained, but structured to support him over time. Not a lump sum he could mismanage, but gradual access as he matures. Lawson proposed graduated distribution, immediate access for approved educational expenses with me as trustee, while Trevor was minor, then distributions at 25 for education or first home, 30 for career investment, 35 for remaining balance. I approved the structure. The no contest clause regarding Danielle was now moot. She received nothing, had no standing to challenge. Cost $800 for revision. I signed without hesitation. The days developed rhythm. I woke early, made breakfast while Trevor showered. We ate together, sometimes in comfortable silence, sometimes discussing Trevor's summer reading for advanced history. I enrolled him in the local high school, working with counselors to ensure proper placement. Trevor chose advanced history. "You made it interesting when I was younger," he told me. "All those stories about how things really happened. I want to learn more." We established house rules through discussion rather than decree. Trevor's responsibilities: keep his room organized, contribute to meal preparation twice weekly, maintain schoolwork, communicate his schedule. My commitments: respect his privacy, listen without judgment, support his interests, be honest about difficult topics. Saturday morning, August 18th. The heat had broken overnight. Trevor and I sat on the front porch, glasses of lemonade sweating condensation. The neighborhood was quiet, weekend peaceful. I stood, moved inside, returned carrying a record sleeve. Trevor recognized the ritual from childhood visits, my vinyl collection, the careful placement on the turntable. Marvin Gaye's voice filled the porch. "What's going on?" We listened without speaking. Finally, Trevor asked, "Grandpa, do you ever regret that all this happened? That your own daughter tried to hurt you?" I considered seriously. "I regret that Danielle chose the path she did, but I don't regret protecting myself and you. Justice isn't about revenge, son. It's about restoring balance. Sometimes that means accepting painful truths and acting on them." Trevor nodded slowly. "She was my mom. I should feel worse about her losing custody, right? But mostly I just feel relieved." I squeezed his shoulder. "That's honest. Sometimes relief is the appropriate response to escaping a harmful situation. You're allowed to feel that." Monday morning, we drove to Martin Luther King Jr. High School for enrollment. The guidance counselor reviewed Trevor's transcripts and discussed placement. "Advanced history with Mr. Patterson is a good choice. He's excellent with students who think critically." Trevor completed enrollment paperwork, emergency contact, Vernon James, grandfather and legal guardian. Official documentation of our new relationship appeared in mundane forms. Walking back to the car, Trevor carried orientation materials and a class schedule. "Start date is September 2nd. 3 weeks." I nodded. "Enough time to settle in properly. New beginning." Trevor looked at the school building, then at me. "Thank you for everything, for fighting when it would have been easier to just let them win." My response was simple. "Your family, the kind worth protecting. That's not a choice, it's a certainty." We drove home through Atlanta's mid-morning traffic, past neighborhoods I'd known for decades. My daughter was somewhere in this city, serving probation, legally severed from her son. My former son-in-law was in prison. My house stood secure behind new locks and cameras. My grandson sat beside me, safe and moving toward a future built on honesty. Justice isn't always satisfying in obvious ways. It doesn't erase pain or restore what was broken, but it does restore balance, protect the vulnerable, and create space for something better to grow. That's enough, more than enough. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.